Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Before we get started, I do want to say if you can hear my air conditioners running in the background, I apologize. It's like 90 some degrees here and it's hot up in like in my upstairs part of my house. So I have to have them running or it gets way too hot up here. So I sincerely apologize because I know that sound probably does get annoying, but okay, having said that, here is the Picot shell top for our matching shawl. Oh, I am so happy with how this turned out. It's adorable. I love this. So basically, what we do is we work two panels, a front and a back, and we just double crochet up so high. And I've got that all figured out for you on your and throughout the tutorial, your sizes from small to 2XL hair. And then we work the shell for our sleeve, and then we stop at our neckline, work up our shoulder, and then a little bitty piece up here for our shoulder. Make those two pieces, we sew them together, add our border around the neck, border around the sleeves, and we're done. And there we go. I'm so happy with how this turned out. I'm proud of myself. Can you guys tell? I'm super proud of myself. All right, so like I said, I've got your small, medium, large, extra large, and 2XL, and I've got it all done in the pattern. So you guys, I tell you what to do throughout the pattern, and you're gonna need. Let me get my stuff here. You're gonna need a pair of scissors, a needle to weave in your end, 4mm hook, and if you made the matching shawl and you used 4 bobbins for your matching shawl, you are going to use all 4 from the bobbins that you already worked off of, and then I needed this much off of a 5th bobbin for, I don't know why that keeps doing that. It's driving me nuts. So if you can look, you can see how much has been taken off of this 5th bobbin, right? Now that's for a size large. I'm gonna say same thing for a medium and an extra large. For a 2X, I want you to get 1 more bobbin, okay? And then for a small, I think you'll be fine with the 4 bobbins that we use to make the shawl. All right, so small, use what's left off your 4 bobbins that you use to make the shawl. Medium, large, and extra large, you're going to be good with the 5 bobbins, and then 2X, get 6 bobbins, okay? And then you can make your shawl bigger too. All right, now having said that, you know, this is what I use. So here's your yardage for each color. Here's total on the bobbin. It's a 4-way, 100% anti-pilling acrylic. If I was to suggest a yarn to use instead of the bobbin, I would definitely go with a Caron Simply Soft. It's not a 100% match, but it's close. I would definitely recommend that. And one more thing I do want to talk about. There are a lot of different ways that you can make this tank, or you can, not tank, this top. You could have done the bottom in a dark and then the top in a light, and then, you know, use the variegated like I did on the shawl. That would incorporate all the colors, which I almost wonder how that would have looked. I don't know. Or, just you could have done, or I could have done all dark for the shawl, and then maybe done like the shell, the Picot shell around the neck and around the arms in the variegated. I don't know. Ton of different ways we could have done it. But anyway, so there is your yardage to figure how many yards you need for if you're going to use a different yarn for this. And I also suggest either getting a bunch of these little stitch markers. These are the cheap ones, or having a bunch of, you know, little strands of scrap to cut, because what we do is we go up the side. Let me move this. We go up the side, and every so often just stitch, like put a stitch marker, or, you know, if you're using the strands, just tie it together right here. Then we go under the arms, and we do the same thing at the top for the sleeve, and then we flip the shirt inside out, sew it all up, flip it back out, and that just helps keep us from getting confused which is the front and which is the back, or, you know, keeps us in line as we're working up the side. So, you know, basically meaning, so the front of, you know, let's say the front panel we've got this much and the back panel we got that much. It keeps us from getting that bunch in there. So if we keep it nice and straight, it'll be perfect. So either get you a bunch of these little cheap stitch markers or a bunch of strands of scrap cut so we can use to sew that up. And your yarn, and that's it. That is all you're gonna need, okay? So what else do I want to talk about? All right, I've got all of the size worked out for you. I probably will block mine just a tad bit. It doesn't need it, but I want to do it to, how do I explain that, to give it a little more give at the bottom, because I'm a thicker girl and I don't like things that are a little too tight, and this was designed, you know, for my size to fit my t-shirt, but I used a t-shirt that was a tad bit, you know, tighter on me, and I shouldn't have done that. So I would suggest once you're done, we're gonna block it a little bit. If you try it on first, because you may not need to, depending on your tension, the yarn you use, 1,000 different things that could factor into whether you need to block it or not. So definitely we're gonna try it on before we block. And yeah, that's it. I mean, other than that, I've done all the measurements. I'm pretty confident it's gonna come out perfect. All right, so get your supplies together and we're gonna get started. Okay, so to get started with our Picot shell top, we need to first get our panels figured, meaning, you know, the size we're going to make, the number of chains per that size. All right, so what I have here is I am making myself the large using my 4mm hook. Now, let me get a piece of paper and let me write this as we go. How's that? Okay. So if you're making a small using your 4mm hook, chain 77, chain. A medium, chain 81. A large, chain 89. Extra large, chain 93. And an extra large chain 101. Okay? And you know, obviously depending on your tension and the yarn you're using, you could totally end up having a size a little bit bigger than what you're expecting or a little bit smaller. So I would, if you're using a yarn, like the same yarn that I use, the Premier bobbins, I would stay with this if you have an average tension. Let's say you're using this yarn and you have a loose tension. I would go down a size. So let's say you're making a large and you have a loose tension and you're using the same yarn, go down a size. And okay, so let's say you're using the same yarn, but you have a tight tension, and you're making a large, I would say you could either go up a size or you could go up a hook size, and vice versa for small too. And then what else? Let's say you're using a different yarn. Let's say you're using a Red Heart Super Saver. Red Heart Super Saver is classified as a 4-weight, just like this, but it's a tad bit thicker than this. So if you chain 89 for a large using that red heart with a size 4mm hook, it's going to be a tad bit bigger than a large. Will it be an extra large? I mean, it could be. It could be depending on your tension and everything. But if I were you, what I would do is get a yarn that's similar to a Caron Simply Soft or this the Premier Bobbin yarn, and use your 4mm hook and work the size that I have up here. Okay, and yeah, I think you'll be okay. If you have a really tight tension, go up a hook size. If you have a really loose tension, go down a hook size. And you should get pretty close to the size you want. Now you may need to block it a little, give it a little more stretch, or you may need to wear a tank top underneath it because it might be a bit too big. Okay, so just so I'm make sure I've confused you enough, let's go on to row 1. So get your chain done, and I'm going to do a little sample piece here. Get a slip knot on my hook. Make sure you have plenty of tail to weave in. Let me move everything. And I'm going to do a little sample. Just getting a bunch of chains here. Alright, so row 1, we are going to start with a double crochet into the 4th chain from our hook. 1, 2, 3, and there's our 4th. I'm going to double crochet right in there. Oops. So the chain 3 that we skipped counts as a double crochet. So that's a double. Double into the 4th chain from our hook, and then we're going to double into each chain. So go ahead and double into each of your remaining chains. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and get this done real quick off camera. I'm going to pause my video and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have double crocheted across my chains, and that is the end of row 1. So double crochet into 4th chain from hook. I realize I didn't need to write this down, and then we're going to double crochet all across remaining chains. Alright, so that's row 2. And at the end of row 2, you should have, for your small, 75 double, medium 79, the large you should have 87, extra large 91, extra large 99. And that is including that the chain 3. Alright, so row 2, you're going to chain 1 and turn. So I wasn't even on camera with that. I am so sorry. I was watching my hands. Alright, so for row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and I want you to double crochet into that very first double, and then double crochet into each of the doubles across. So I'm going to get mine off camera. I'm going to get mine done off camera, and I'm going to come back right before I work that double into the top of that chain 3. Alright? Oopsie, didn't mean to do that. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay, so I have made it across, and I'm coming to that beginning chain 3. So I'm going to yarn over and go right into the top of that chain, which might be a little tight, and we're going to work a double crochet. Okay, so that's row 2. And row 3, the row we're going to repeat for both of our panels, you're going to double crochet into the very first double, and then double crochet into each double across, chain 1, turn, double crochet into each double across, chain 1, turn, double crochet. So what you're going to do, I got this wrote down here. Alright, so you are going to work your row 2, so you double crochet into the very first double, double into each double across, and then at the end double crochet into the top of that chain 3, chain 1, turn. row 3, double crochet into each double crochet all the way across, chain 1, turn, and you are going to repeat row 3 depending on the size you're making. So for the small, you're going to repeat row 3 until you have a total of 23 rows. So that's 1, 2, 3, and then 4, 5, all the way until, so you repeat row 3 for 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 23, okay? So medium, you're going to have a total of 26 rows. Large, you're going to have a total of 31 rows. Extra large, you're going to have a total of 36 rows. And extra large, you're going to have a total of 41 rows, okay? So for mine, I made the large, and here is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31 total rows. Okay? So you need to make 2 panels just like this using your size, okay? Now for my large, mine is measuring, which I don't want you guys to put too much stock in the size of it right now because it can completely change once we sew it together, once we wear it a little. But as of now, my panel measures 18 3/4. Well, I'm not even on camera. How can you see that? Can you see it now? Right, there you can. 18 3/4 of an inch. So it's like, it's right there. Okay? Alright, so get your 2 panels made and weave in your ends. Don't weave in this very last end. Once you get that very last row of yours done, work your last double crochet, chain 1, pull up a loop, cut, fasten off. But don't weave in that end, okay? You can go ahead and weave in this beginning one. It doesn't matter. I should have done mine, but I didn't. Alright, so get your panel done, both panels, weave in your ends, just don't weave in that very last end, okay? We need that one to be able to identify where we are. Alright, get your panels done and come back. Alright, I have my 2 panels done. I did not weave in the ends on my on my other one, so I need to get those weaved in, but I'll do that in a little bit. Alright, so grab one of your panels, doesn't matter which one. The panel that you grab is for now going to be designated as the back panel, okay? So what I want you to do is somehow, let's mark it. I'm going to use an orange stitch marker, and I'm just going to run it in the side, doesn't matter where. And then I'm going to write down orange marker back panel. Okay, so, alrighty, now what we are going to do is we are going to get our working yarn and we're going to get a slip knot on your hook and make sure you have enough tail to weave in. Just like that. Okay, sorry for that weird little cut. I accidentally messed up, but you'll never know. You won't see it. So once you get your slip knot on your hook, make sure you got plenty of tail. We're going to start with a chain of 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right. Now bring your panel in, and with the last row that you work, the tail from your last double crochet, make it to the, so that it's to the left of you, so that the double crochets of your last row are facing up. All right. Now we're going to take our little chain 9 here, and we're going to come to this very first double crochet right there, and we're going to go right in there, and we're just going to work a single crochet just like that. Okay. And now we're going to skip the next 2 double crochet. So here's the double and the chain 1 that we worked into. There's the next 2 double. So into that next double we're going to work our shell, and our shell is 2 double, chain 2, 2 double. So go right in there, 1, 2, I split it, chain 2, go right back in there with 2 double. And now we're going to skip 3. Oh, I split that again. There. We're going to skip the next 3 double crochet. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to shell into the next. And again, the shell is 2 double. Chain 2. Go right back in there with 2 double. Alright, and that is going to be our repeat. Skip 3, shell into the next. Two double, chain 2, go right back in there with 2 double. There. Okay, so that's what I want you guys to repeat all the way across. Skip 3, shell into the next. Skip 3, shell into the next. Repeat that, and I want you to stop when you get to the last few double crochet, okay? So repeat, skip 3, shell, skip 3, shell, all the way into the last few double crochet, and I will meet you when I get down there. Okay, so I have repeated the skip 3, shell in the next, skip 3, shell in the next, all the way to the last 3 double crochet, and I have a shell into the 4th from last double. Now, if you have more or less double crochets at the end, do not panic. It's not a big deal. My math could have, more than likely, this is what it is. My math was a little off, but this is where we're going to fix it. It's not a huge deal. It's not going to change the size much. All I want you to do is skip whatever stitches you have before the last double. So in my case, it's 2. If you have 3 to skip here, don't worry about it. Skip the 3. If you have 4, work 1 more shell. Skip 3. Yeah, then skip whatever you need to skip to get to that last double crochet. And all we're going to do is work a shell into the last double. So skip however many you need to. Chain 2, go right back in there. So now your pattern, or your piece, your panel, should be perfect. No matter how many you had to skip right here, it doesn't matter. It's going to be perfect now. Alright? So, to end that row, row 1, we're going to chain 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And turn your work. I bumped my camera, sorry. Alright, now we are going to come down and we're going to work our shell into the 4th chain from our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 2 double. Chain 2, go right back in there with 2 double. Alright, so that beginning chain 3 that we skipped, that's going to count as a double crochet. And now we shelled into the 4th. Now we're going to skip the next 3 chains. 1, 2, 3. Into that next, we're going to work our shell again. So 1, 2, 3, shell into the next. chain 2, right back in there with 2 more double. All right. We are going to skip the remaining chains. So there should be 3. 1, 2, 3. And then right there is that single crochet that we attached into the first double into. Or I'm sorry. Right? Anyway, we are going to skip our chains and go straight into the chain 2 space, and we're going to shell into that chain 2 space. Chain 2, right back in there with 2 double. So your piece should look like this. And we are going to work a shell into each of the chain 2 spaces all the way across, and I will meet you at the last shell, okay? Sorry I said what I said a second ago. I got a little confused. I didn't mean single. Just you skip it, the double and go the last 3 chains, and you skip that double and go into the chain 2 space. Sorry. I'm trying to concentrate on what I'm doing, and I got confused with myself. All right. Shell into each chain 2 space all the way across, and I'll meet you at the end. Okay, I am back, and I have worked that all across, and I worked into the top of that last shell. So now what we're going to do, we are going to skip the next 2 double. Right there is that single that we used to attach our, that we attached onto, and we're going to skip the next 3 chains. So if you look, there's 1, 2, 3, and into that next, we're going to work our shell. There. 1, 2, ooh, I about did another one. Chain 2, go back in there with 2 more. 1, 2. All right, now we're going to skip the next 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and into the second to last chain, we're going to work another shell. 1, 2, chain 2, go back in there, 2 double. All right, now into that very last chain, which mine is very tight. I did not mean to do that. We are going to work a double crochet. And there you go. So there is our back panel so far. All right, so now we are going to move on to row 3, and we're going to chain 1 and turn. Oops, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bump my camera. Chain 1 and turn. We're going to double crochet right into that very first double. I split that really bad. There we go. All right, there's our double. Now we're going to work a shell into each of the chain 2s of our shells all the way across. All the way across, and work into that last chain 2 space of that last shell, and I'll meet you right there, okay? So I will be right back. Okay, so I have repeated my shells across, and now to end row 3, we're going to double crochet into the top of that chain 3. So all I have to do is just, there's my double, there's the next double. Right there is that chain 3, which is going to be a bit of a butt to get into, but I should say, having said that, that's the last time we're going to work into that chain into a chain 3 at the end. So what I want you guys to do, you are going to repeat what you just did. The only difference is you're not going to be working into a chain 3 at the end. You're just going to be double crocheting into a double crochet. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, let me get my notepad back. Turn the page. For the small, I want you to repeat row 3 until you have a total of 10 rows of shells. So right now you have 3, but I want you to repeat row 3 until you have 10 rows of shells. Medium, same number, 10. Large and extra large, we're going to go to 12. And then the 2X, I want you guys to do 14. So you're going to repeat row 3 until you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rows of shell. All right? So small, I want you to have 10 total rows. Medium, 10 total rows. 11 and extra, or 11, what? Large and extra large, 12 total shell rows. And the 2X, let's go to 14, okay? So I am going to go ahead and stop my my camera here, and I'm going to get my 7 more rows of shell done, and no, not 7, 9 more rows of shell done for my size, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm going to get my rows done, and when I come back it's going to look so pretty. All right, I'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my 12 rows of shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So now we are going to work our shoulder. So once you get your rows done, go ahead and work your very last double crochet. I'm going to bring you guys in. All right, and now what we are going to do is chain 1 and turn. All right, double crochet into your very first double again. And now, let me set this down. I need to write this out for you guys. So for small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL. Okay, so you double crocheted in your first double, and now you're going to shell into the next 8 for the small, 9 for medium and large, 10 for the extra large, and the 2XL, okay? So for mine, I'm making a large, so I'm going to work into the next 9 shells. So shell into your shell. Just like we have been. So for the small, do 8, medium, do 9, large, 9, extra large, and 2X, do your 10. Shell into the next 10 shells. All right, so there's my 1, and I'm going to go to 9 shells. All right, so I'm not going to make you watch me do that. So I'm going to get these done and I'll be right back. All right, so I have my 9, where am I at? I have my 9 shells done. Once you get your shells done, what we're going to do now is into the next shell, into the chain 2 space, we're going to work 1 double crochet. Just like that. All right, so to go on to row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn, and go ahead and we're going to double crochet right back into that double crochet. Okay, now we're going to shell into each of our shells back to the beginning. So this is row 2 of our shoulder. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and work my shells back to my first double crochet. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I've made it to my end, and there's my 2 double, and I'm going to double crochet into my last double. Chain 1 and turn, and we are going to work that one more time. Oops, sorry. Work that across one more time. Double into your double. And then shell into each of your shells. All the way back down, okay? So this is row 3. We have one more after this one. All right, I'll be right back. Okay, so I have made it back across. So here's my last 2 double crochet of that last shell, and then right there is my double, so I'm going to double crochet right back into there. Chain 1 and turn, and for row 4 and the last row of this shoulder, we're going to double crochet right back into that first double. And now, depending on the size you're making, so I got to get my notepad one more time. I'm going to kind of keep that off. For the small, medium, large, extra large, 2XL, let's make that a little more visible. Okay, so you are going to shell into the next 4 shells, 5 for the medium and the large, and 6 for the extra large and the 2XL into those next shells. So I'm making a large, so I'm only going to shell into the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stop, okay? So if you're doing the 4 or the small, only work into the next 4 shells. 5, 6 or 7, or I mean 6. Okay, so I'm making a large, so I'm going to go into the next 5 shells with a shell. Alright, so I'm going to get my 5 done. And I'll be right back. Okay, so I worked into those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shells. So to end this row, we're going to skip the last 2 double crochet of this shell, and the very first double crochet of the next shell, we're going to work 1 single crochet into there. Chain 1, pull up a loop, make sure it's long enough to weave. Oop, I'm sorry, dang it. Make sure it's long enough to weave in your ends and cut. Just like that. And that is what your panel should look like. Or well, I shouldn't say panel, I should say your shoulder. Alright, so now we are going to turn this over. Let me adjust my camera just a second, please. Okay, so I'm back, and So what we have here is I want you guys to lay out your back panel with this last row of double crochet facing you, and another indication, we need this last row of shells facing away from us. So let's just go by that. Lay this out so that the last row of shells is the back of those double crochets are facing you, okay? All right, so now what we're gonna do, we are going to, I'm trying to think of a really good way to explain this so I'm not confusing you guys. All right, so for my large, right, I had 9 shells on this shoulder part, right? But I needed that 10th shell to double crochet into to end the row. Well, so now when I count off, I need to make sure I have 10 shells for this shoulder. Why 10? Again, because I used 9 for the shoulder, but that 10th one I needed for that double. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over and I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm just going to put my hook in right there, just so I don't lose it, okay? Okay, so let's say you did the the medium. So you should have had, let me find my paper where I wrote that down. Okay, so it was still 9, wasn't it? All right, so for an extra large, you should have had 10 shells, right? Well, you needed that 11th shell for that double crochet to end your row, right? So when you come over here, you need to count off that one extra for that double crochet we have to end in. I hope that makes sense, and I hope I'm not confusing you guys. I'm sorry if I am. If you guys need any help, as always, my email address is in the description box. My Facebook is in the description box, my Instagram, my Twitter, and you can message me on all of those, and I will see it one way or another, okay? And I will help you guys. All right, so we need to attach. So I'm going to get my yarn back. All right. So I'm going to slip stitch or put a slip knot on my hook. And again, always make sure you have enough tail to weave in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, so I'm going to attach into the 10th with the slip stitch. Chain 1, and I'm going to go right back in there with a double crochet. Okay? So I'm going to bring you guys back in. All right. So now I am going to jump to that next shell, and I'm going to work my shells into each chain 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll meet you once I get that 9th shell done, okay? So I will be right back. Okay, so I have worked my shells across, and again into that last double crochet right there. I'm going to work my double. I have a helper just to the left of me, so if you see his paw come in view to attack my yarn, or a shadow. Alright, so that is row 1 of our left shoulder. So now what I want you guys to do is repeat row 2 and 3 that we did on this side, which is just chain 1, double into the first double, shell into each of your doubles to the end, double into the last double, chain 1, double into the double, shell all the way across. Repeat that for 2 and 3, the exact same thing we just did, okay? So I just did 1, so I'm going to start 2, chain 1 and turn. Churchy, you're being a bit of a butt. Okay. So I'm going to double into that first double. And then shell into each of my shells till the end. Double crochet in my last double. Chain 1, turn, work row 3 the exact same, and I will come right back once I get that row 3 done, okay? All right. It's looking so cool. I'm excited. All right, I'll see you guys in just a minute. All right. Excuse me. Had a frog in my throat. Alrighty, so I have finished that third row, or my third row. So we have 1, 2, 3, and I made it all the way back, and I double crocheted into that last double. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and this row 4 is going to be a tad bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to slip stitch into that very first double crochet, and we're going to slip stitch in each stitch, only 1 into the chain 2 space, into the next 4 shells, each stitch of the last shell also. So I'm just going to go hit where it, there it is. And I'm going to work this with you guys. So we slip stitch into the first double, slip stitch into each stitch of the shell, and I'm only going to do 1 into the chain 2 space. Second shell, 1 into the chain 2 space, third shell, 1 into the chain 2 space, one, two, three, and then all the stitches of the fourth shell. And 1 into the chain 2 space. Alright, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4 shells. Okay, so now what we are going to do, we are going to go straight into that very next double crochet with another slip stitch, chain 1, and go right back in there with a single crochet, just like that. Okay, so now you're going to shell into each of your remaining shells. So for my size, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which should be exactly the same as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as your other shoulder. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and work all my 5 shells. And you guys go ahead. I'm going to get mine done off camera, and I am going to be right back. Okay, so I have worked that across. I have my very last double crochet that I need to double crochet into. Chain 1, pull up a loop, and cut. As we we are done with our back panel. And it's so pretty, I love it. Let me get this laid out. Oh, you guys, yay! Happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. So here's our neckline, here's our shoulder, and our little sleeve. I wish I could get this all, I'm going to try pulling you back a little bit more. There. Yay, doesn't that look great? Alright, so I am going to stop here, and I'm going to get all my ends weaved in, and when we come back, we're going to start the front panel. So I will be right back. Okay, so I have all my ends weaved in on my back panel. I've got my front panel. I've got all the ends weaved in except for where I fastened off. And I want that to be to the left of your guys' work. So lay your panel down to where the very last tail, where you worked that last row and chain 1 and fastened off, is to the left, okay? Now, if you remember, I'm going to bring my back panel back. The very first row of the shells that we worked. Remember, we got a slip knot on our hook, and we chained 9, and then we attached with the single. I have never done this before, but I am going to attempt to put a timestamp, or maybe I can just edit the video, or you guys can just rewind the video. But what we're going to do is we're going to work the shell rows like we did at the back panel. We're going to work the exact same thing, except the number of rows you're going to work. So for like mine, I'm making the large, so I worked the 12 rows of shells, right? Well, for the front panel, you are only going to work for the small 6 rows of shells, medium 8 rows of shells, the large 8 rows of shells, extra large, and the 2X, you're going to work 10 rows of shells. So you're going to do the exact same thing that we did on that back panel. So just rewind your video, okay? And right when we finished the 2 panels and we start the shells, that's exactly the same thing we're getting ready to do, okay? All we're doing is we're doing less rows of the shells. So I'm going to let you guys work this portion off camera, and I'm going to get mine done off camera. So I'm only going to work 8 rows of the shells back and forth. So remember, it's where we turn my pattern page. We chain 9, and with the last row of the double crochets facing you, we single crochet into that very first double crochet, skip 2 double, shell into the next double. Then we skip 3 shell, 3 shell, 3 shell, 3 shell, all the way across. And no matter how many you have after you work that last shell, skip them all and go and double crochet right into that last, shell into the last double crochet. And then chain 11, and we turn. You guys got it. All you have to do is rewind your video, and yeah. So get your rows of shells done. And the main reason I'm doing this is to keep this video from being like 2.5 hours long. And this is just one simple way you can do it. I'm going to put on screen, I will put a time for you guys to rewind to, okay? I'm pretty sure I can do that. So the time that it's going to show across the bottom of the video is what time you need to rewind your video to, okay? Alright, so then you follow that and work your however many rows of shells you need, okay? So I will get mine done and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back, and it's been a couple days since I worked on this last, and I also want to say, if you guys can hear my air conditioner running in the background, apologize for that. It's just, it is so hot outside, and I don't want to shut it off. Alright, so I've got my rows done. Should have been 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, nope, 8. I was off one. Alright, so now, just dropped my stitch marker. Alright, so with your work on your left hand side, I want you guys to just mark somewhere on your top. That is going to mark that this is the left side of our top, okay? And now what you're going to do is we are going to work the same number of shells over that we did on our back panel. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're only going to work over to the 9 shells, or whatever your number was. So like if you were making a larger size than mine, you would have had, I think, what was it, 10? Yeah, I think you would have had 10 shells. And then if like let's say you did the size small, you'd only have the 6 shells. So that's what we're going to work on this part. We are only going to work over the same number of shells that you did on your back panel, because this is the front. So mine was a large, or is a large. So I'm going to work over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, doing that same pattern. So I'm just going to chain 1 and turn. double crochet in that first double, and then shell, chain 1, it's chain 2, not 1, and go back in there with your 2 double. Okay, so I'm trying to figure out where I wrote down. Yeah, here it is. Here's where I wrote it down that first time for the number of shells that you're going to work over, which I said 6 earlier. I'm sorry, that's not right. It's 8. So for your small, only work over your 8 shells. Medium and large, work over 9 shells. Extra large and 2X, you're going to work over 10 shells. So I've already got 1, so I need to go 8 more to have my 9. So I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, and I'll come right back. Alright, so I have my 9 shells. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that is going to be the end of row 1. So we're going to... Oh, well, wait a second. I just about forgot how to end this row. Sorry about that. Now we are going to double crochet into the space of the very next shell in the chain 2 space. Just work 1 double. Now that's the end of our row. So now we're going to chain 1 and turn. All right. Now for this is row 2. So for row 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, we're going to repeat this exact same pattern. We're going to double crochet into the first double, shell into the next shell, and then shell into each of the chain 2 spaces. Oh, I just split that. There we go. Chain 2, 1, 2 of all of your shells. So shell into each of the chain 2 spaces of all of your shells all the way to the end. And I'm going to work all my shells, and I'll come back at this last shell, okay? So I'm going to get that done real quick. Okay, I worked a shell into each of my chain 2 back to the beginning, and we're going to end the row with a double crochet into the very last stitch, which is the double. Right in there. And that's it. That is row 2 of our left shoulder. So that's what you're going to repeat for 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Okay? We're going to chain 1, turn our work, double crochet right back into that same double, or that very first double, and then we're going to go right into, do you guys notice that? My last shell only has 1 double. Double into there. Double into that last double. Chain 1, turn. Double into that very first double crochet. And now we're going to go into working the shell into each chain 2 space. Alright, so you just work that back across, double crochet, or I mean shell into your last chain 2 space, and then jump right into that very last double crochet and work a double, chain 1 and turn, and work it back. So we're going to work that for, we already worked 2, we just started 3, so we need to finish 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, okay? So get those those rows done, and I will be right back as soon as I finish the the last shell of the 7th row. I'll be right back. Okay, so I finished my 7 rows. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now I'm going to double crochet into the very last double. Turn your work a little bit to see that. Right in there. I'm going to work my double. Alright, so that is the end of that little section. So now what we're going to do is, if you remember on your your back panel, that little section of shells that we had, just that teeny little part right there, that's what we're going to work now. So if you remember, for your size, so for my large I only did 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep. All right. So for your small, only work into 4. The medium and the large is 5. Extra large and the 2X is 6. So what I mean is, we're going to work the exact same thing we have been. We're only going to work those many shells. All right. So for my large, I'm only going to work into 6 total shells, and then we're going to be done. Well, besides ending. All right. So I chain 1, and we're going to turn. And I'm going to double right back into that double. And then I'm going to work my 6 shells. I'm sorry, 5. I'm going to work my 5 shells, and then you guys work your corresponding shell, okay? So I'm going to get mine done, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I have my 5 shells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now what we're going to do is single crochet into the first double of the very next shell. So we're going to skip these 2 doubles in the shell that we're worked into, and that very first double we're going to work a single crochet right into there. Chain 1, pull up a loop, and we're going to fasten off because we are done with this side. So now I am going to pause this. I'm going to get my camera adjusted, and we're going to work the next side. We're almost done. All right, I'm going to be right back. Okay, so we just finished this side, and that's our left side. Our stitch marker is right here. So what I want you to do now is flip it over. So now the stitch marker is to your right. Okay? Get my notepad out of the way. Alright, so what we are going to do now is skip the same number of double crochets, or shells, bleh, I don't know why I said doubles, the same number of shells that you did on your other panel. So for instance, here's my back panel. I'm not going to count this one because we worked into it, so I'm going to skip 1, what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to start in my 7th. So you're going to do the exact same thing that you did on your back panel, okay? So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to start into my 7th. So I'm just going to set my hook in there. So that should give me, let's see, 1. So this is the double. So we're not going to count this on our shell count, right? So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and there's my ending double. So it comes out perfect. All right. So you know, depending on what size you're making, you just do the exact same thing that you just skip the exact same on your the same that you did on your back panel, because this is our front panel. All right. So I'm just going to give that a little bit of a pull so I don't lose that is the one I want to go into. A slip knot on my hook, and as always, make sure you have plenty of tail to weave in. Go right in there, with a slip stitch, chain 1, I'm going to pull that tail, and go right back in there with a double crochet, and then shell into each of my shells, or each of the chain 2 spaces of my shells. Split that. And work that all the way across. Chain 2. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and double into all of my shell into each of my chain 2s, and I will come back once I get to that last chain 2 space of the last shell, okay? I'll be right back. Okay, so I worked my shells all the way to the end, and now I'm going to just double into that last double. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're going to work our rows 2 through 7 just like we did on this side. And now we're just going to work, so we just did row 1, so now you just repeat the 2 through 7 like we just did over here, okay? So I am going to stop here, get mine done, and I'll come back when I finish the 7th row, okay? So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have come to the end of row 7, and I've got you guys pulled out just a little bit to show you everything. Alright, so there's my last shell, so I'm just going to go right into that very last double crochet, get in there, and work a double. Chain 1 and turn. Alright, so now the row 8 we're going to work. Do you guys notice that? So like the row 8 on this side, we just worked straight into those shells, right? Well, on this side, we got to skip across to get to the shells we need. So my size, which is large, I needed this shell on camera, sorry. I worked a double into my double, and then I worked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shells, and then on the next one I just singled into that first shell, or first double crochet of that next shell, right? So I skip 1, 2, 3, 4 chain 2 spaces of shells. So that's what we're going to do on this side. We chain 1 and turn, and we're going to slip stitch across the doubles, or I mean the shells that we left unworked from row 7. So for mine, I am going to go past 1 chain 2, 2, 3, 4 chain 2s, and 1 double, and then I'm going to single crochet into that next. So depending on your size, you know, so like I don't have my piece of paper in front of me that has the count, but whatever, you know, you worked for row 8 on yours, you're just going to skip until you get to that you have the full chain 2 spaces to work into to have the same number of shells. Does that make sense? I think it does. I think you guys got this. Alright, so what I'm going to do is get my hook back on my work. And I'm going to slip stitch. Nice and easy. I'm not going to do it real tight. Slip stitch into that first double. Slip stitch into each double. Alright, sorry about that weird cut. I had to adjust my camera and then double check what I did on the other panel. So we're going to work 2 slip stitches into the chain 2 space. 1. The second one's a little wonky. 2. And then slip stitch into the next 2 double. Nice and loose, don't do it too tight. The next 2. Into the chain 2 space. Second one's a little on the weird side. Next doubles. Ah, that wasn't right. Alright, I'm doing the 2 into the chain 2 space and then into the next double. The next double. How many shells have I done? 1, 2, 3, and I need to fully skip 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm close. One, 2 into the chain 2. Okay, so now I've done 4 full chain 2s, 1, 2, 3, 4 of the shells. So now I'm going to slip stitch into the next, double crochet, and then slip stitch into the next double. But this is where we're going to work our single crochet, the same single crochet that we ended row 8 with on our other side, right? See, so this is what we just did. We slip stitched across 1, 2, 3, 4, that very next double crochet, and then slip stitch into the next, and then we're going to chain 1 and single crochet into there. So I slip stitched, chain 1, I'm going to go right back in there with a single, and now we're going to work our shells across the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or however many you needed for your size. So there's my single, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll double crochet in that last. So 1, chain 2, 1 and 2. Jump to that next shell, 2 double. Get me some slack here. I hope that's not too confusing. I mean, I can understand how it's going to get a little confusing. So if you need any help at all, my email address is in the description box of all my videos. Jump down there, copy it, and then go to your email and paste my email address in there, and then shoot me an email and say, you know, hey, I need help. This is completely confusing me, and I will be right there to help you guys. I'm just about done. It's my last shell. Alright, now I'm going to end with a double crochet into my very last double. But you got to turn your work just a tad bit to see that. And sorry, I set my notepad away from me that I wrote my pattern down on and I couldn't find it. Alright, so now we chain 1, pull up a loop, and we are done with that panel. Ta-da! Alright, so I am going to stop here and I'm going to get all my ends weaved in. I had to attach a new cone of my color. So I'm going to get all these ends weaved in and I will be right back. Okay guys, I am so sorry for the abrupt break, but we're going to have to make this a two-parter. Link in the description box for part 2. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you over there.